All right, so quick word on herbs and other such herbal remedies. I am not an herbalist. I am a certified clinical nutritionist, but my mentor was an herbalist along with a billion other things. And so I've done quite a bit of research on herbal remedies for everything from common ailments like cold and flu to more significant health concerns like, cholesterol and other, familial or hereditary concerns. And so one I feel comfortable recommending fairly frequently is elderberry syrup. Elderberries have been well researched to activate the immune system in a way that helps fight off and also prevent the common cold or even the true flu. There is actually some research out that shows its efficacy as like on par with Tamiflu or other prescription antivirals that are really tough on the body, especially for people that have allergies or sensitivities to medications. So we'll be teaching you how to make a really simple elderberry syrup today. If you have an autoimmune disease or quite a few allergies, you really want to proceed with caution. Elderberry syrup is something you can buy over the counter. But I prefer a homemade recipe. I find it way more effective and way more cost effective. Holy smokes, the little tiny bottle of syrup is pretty spendy. So I'm gonna teach you my kind of loosey-goosey, quick and easy way of making elderberry syrup at home. And then you can make it if you'd like to and use it for your family, which I hope you do. So the only thing we really need to be intentional about ratio wise is going to be the elderberries to water, because we want to have a consistent dosing, right? We want it to be like accurate how much we're offering, especially since it's a homemade recipe. And we're not going to have the exact serving size. So I have dried elderberries. Elderberries are not something you eat, so don't eat them. They need to be dried, at least for this recipe in these quantities. So elderberries themselves, like the actual elderberry, is actually toxic. So don't just eat it. We're gonna simmer it and do the things and then strain it, and you're gonna be left with this nice syrup at the end. So we're gonna have about 2/3 cup of dried elderberries. I'll post some of my favorite sourcing for those, because of course where things come from is important and how they're processed. And then you really, really, really need to use clean water for this one. So some kind of purified water, not just tap water, because we really want this to be a therapeutic syrup. I'm not gonna say tincture because that's the wrong word, but we want it to be like very high quality. We don't want it growing anything. We don't want, fluoride from the tap water or things like that in there. So purified water, please. I'll use our RO or reverse osmosis water. And then here's how I do it. I chuck in a couple cinnamon sticks. It looks like 3 this time for a single batch. Some hunks of ginger. Don't even have to peel it, which is the hardest part, right? And then about a teaspoon-ish, oh, that's very hard to do, of whole cloves. You could use clove powder. I prefer whole forms of things when I'm making this because I really want to see the actual forms getting in there. You can use cinnamon powder, you can use ginger powder, but I want to use the real ingredients. And then now I have ginger lying around and I'm going to make something with it. And then at the very end, our last ingredient is going to be some raw honey. You definitely want to try to get a local raw honey that's going to have some good probiotics in it. It's going to have a little bit of support for local allergies or seasonal things if we've got the snotties from, whatever's growing. It scared me. For us, that is like sagebrush and tumbleweeds and all those fun things. So this is basically the ingredients you're gonna need. This recipe is gonna be pretty darn quick to chuck all together, and then I'll walk you through it. Once you've brought it to a boil, you want to quickly turn it down to low. We don't want to kill all the nice active things in here, and we're going to get it down to nice and low heat so it's just barely a bubble. And we want to make sure that there's enough heat that it's actually going to reduce, because our goal is to reduce the liquid content by about half. That's how we're going to keep our consistent dough. So when we pour this back into our glass container after we've strained it, we want to have just about half, a little more is totally fine, as much liquid as we started with. So that's going to kind of be our gauge, is we're going to just keep an eye on where it was filled up here on the edge in correlation with these little knobby dudes. And then I'm going to try to reduce it by half, which means I don't want the lid on tight, right? Because the moisture is not going to escape, and we're not going to get a reduced, more concentrated syrup. So what we want to do is just kind of keep a lid on here a little, and then we're just going to have this guy on bubbly, kind of low, for around 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how your temperature is, and that's going to give us our reduced syrup.